Discover your real personality now on BBC One. Well, unless you're a cynical person.
How do you think other people see you? And more to the point, how do you see yourself?
I hate being early. I even hate being on time.
I can't find a CD or DVD unless they're in alphabetical order.
Do you drive with a map or follow your nose?
I like to go the wrong way to know I'm going the right way.
Do you shop with a list?
Andy, can you look down here and see if there's any bay leaves? Andy, could you get some goat's cheese?
Or simply wing it when you get there? How much do these clues say about what you're really like, and can a psychologist really predict how you'll behave without even meeting you?
Oh, do it, you nutter!
This is all about personality testing. These three psychologists are experts in this field. They really believe in a theory that says each one of us will fit into just one of 16 personality types, and they're willing to put their reputations on the line tonight. They reckon they can spot whether you're a peacemaker, go-getter or big thinker simply by watching the way you behave. So we've got 100 people all dressed in black to hide any clues about who they are to test the psychologists out. Our volunteers will go through a series of fun and bizarre tests because the psychologists say they can pinpoint our personality from tiny clues. In fact, they think this tea bag could hold the key to why you suit your job so much.
It's a cheeky little number, isn't it?
Trust me, go and get a tea bag and join in. Can how you write a shopping list tell them how tidy your home is? Go and get a pen and paper and try this out. And they say this model car could hold the key to why you argue with your partner. Now, we don't know how this is going to go because it's never been attempted before, but we're going one step further. You see, it's all very well to know what a person's type is, but how do you then use that in the real world? We've taken 12 of our volunteers away for secret location tests, and we're putting the pressure on the psychologists to tell us exactly how they will behave in those tests before they take them. Now, if they can do that, that's extraordinary. The psychologists know nothing about any of the 12, and they haven't seen a frame of what we've shot. All they'll be given is the personality type label, and from that alone, they'll try to predict how each of our guinea pigs performed in those secret tests. You predicted that the idealists were likely to set off the smoke alarm based on personality type. What is going on?
It's actually very easy.
And we'll be looking at your personality too, with a fun interactive quiz specially designed for this programme. You won't even have to leave your armchair. Don't worry about the fact this is science. It's all very down to earth. Things like why your husband and son can't get on, or why you want to throttle someone in the workplace. Everyday stuff. Our psychologists believe that we all fit into one of 16 personality types. Each type is made up from a combination of 4 distinct parts. So we've designed a studio split into 4 zones, each one representing a quarter of your personality. Are you spontaneous or do you like to plan? Do you prefer facts or ideas? Are you led by your head or your heart? And are you introverted or extroverted? Right, let's start by looking at the first of 4 personality dimensions. Are you a planner or more of a spontaneous type? How do you put together flat-pack furniture, or in this case, a model car? Do you lay all the pieces out and follow the plans, or just dive in? And how do you write your shopping list? Like this?
You can see it's got columns, and on the left-hand side, it's the aisles in order.
In fact, do you even write one at all?
I can usually remember most of the things. I might get home and find there's one thing I've forgotten.
Planners can often be spotted by their neat and tidy appearance, whereas spontaneous types often have a more lived-in look. But we've dressed everyone in black to hide these clues, so what will this simple test reveal to our psychologists? Start with Teresa on the front here.
So she was really interesting because she actually wrote a very short list and put a border around it. So my best guess as to why someone would do that is because they're bored.
So what are we saying about her?
So she, to me, seems such a spontaneous kind of person that she couldn't care less whether she had a list or not.
So, is Penny accurate? Well, Teresa is a puppet maker.
There's generally not really a set routine to my day.
Or her night. She relaxes by making up songs whilst playing pots and pans. Now, I'd call that spontaneous. Psychologist Rowan Bain has his eye on this man, who's writing his list in aisle order, which is no surprise when you look at the way he lives his life. The whole family has got the supermarket down pat.
Ready meals, Chinese ready meals, Indian ready meals, pizzas on the right hand side.
Soup.
Crackers.
No, you're not on crackers yet, love. Sorry. Then it's fish.
Fish, bacon.
Then I think it might be juice.
No,
it's
it's fizzy.
Well done, it is. It's fizzy.
Even 5-year-old Harry knows the supermarket layout.
Fizzy pop, you're right, Harry Thomas.
But can Dave's simple shopping list tell Rowan more about him? Say, how clean his house is. Remember, he's never met Dave before.
He gave a very strong clue for planned.
An extreme of that type would do what within the home, say within the kitchen?
Oh, would want things to be organised, put away in the same order. Everything would have a place.
And sure enough, Dave is a man who has a place for everything and everything in its place.
The sideboard unit here, we tend to keep all the CDs and videos.
It's very particular about everything he does. He has to have everything just right, otherwise it's just not good.
Dave is clearly a very different personality from his teenage stepdaughter, Lauren. Her bedroom doesn't suit his structured mind.
I would have it symmetrical, I would have them in lines across, and whenever possible going in straight lines down as well. God. Sad,
Yeah.
Back in the studio, and Felicity Lee has her eye on another David. He's been asked to build a model car, but that's not what she's interested in. She wants to see how he behaves when we change the plan.
The aim of this exercise is now to build a spaceship. You have 1 minute.
There are no instructions for the spaceship, so how does he react? Take a look again.
The aim of this exercise is now to build a spaceship. You have 1 minute.
David Coates doesn't seem bothered, but the man behind him looks quite confused by the change.
Clearly you can see, even from watching people's expressions, that some people, perhaps the two gentlemen at the front, were a little bit frustrated about that.
Whereas often the people who are more spontaneous, not unduly concerned. Okay, we'll just carry on. Maybe we'll build something else. Or maybe we'll take the car and build it into a spaceship. So much more flexible, adaptable, accommodating.
Let's take this away from model making then and into the home. What sort of things, when you get a conflict between a planner and someone who's spontaneous, in terms of a plan for the evening or going out for the evening or something like that, and suddenly plans change?
It can be quite scary if people who have a plan don't have it, because they don't know what's going on.
Yeah, but isn't it equally scary for people who are non-planners to have someone planning their life all the time?
It's not necessarily scary, it's just really frustrating.
So, will this sort of conflict show itself in David's life? He lives here in Southend with girlfriend Monique and her daughter Harriet. They decided to turn their spare room into a walk-in wardrobe, which they both share.
It doesn't mentally make me feel more stable having any order in my life on any level. I in fact crave disorder.
And I did say to him the other day, if I find another pair of socks on the floor in the lounge, I'm going to put them in the bin every time I find them.
In order to contain David's mess, Monique has devised a system which splits the house into zones.
This is really sort of my room, or the kitchen. David has the basement, but we have to do that because David's so messy, otherwise we'll just kill each other. We need our own space, totally.
Exaggeration? Well, take a look at this. David's den.
All these are all ones that I haven't listened to recently, and all these are ones that I have, because I just take them out. No, I'm a big one for leaving them out. I don't put them back. I don't want to have it in a structure. If I put it down there, I know it's there. What is wrong with that? Endemically, I know where everything is. I know where all my stuff is.
You get all stressed about it.
It does stress me to think that it wouldn't be, to think that it would all be alphabetically. That would just kill me.
So, are the two Daves really as chalk and cheese as our psychologists think?
I live in the now, and that is my whole life. I definitely live. There's no past, there's no future. I live in the now.
I'm a particularly logical person and follow a set routine.
I hate being early. I even hate being on time.
It just absolutely grips me to think that I'm not going to be there on time.
Are people going around all day and saying, oh, I've saved 5 minutes now, I've saved 5 minutes. What are you going to do with it?
Later in the show, we're going to see if the psychologists can predict how these two polar opposites behaved in a series of secret tests. We set them miles away from the studio. And we'll be testing you at home too. So grab a pen and paper, or digital viewers, press the red button now. Zone 2 and personality dimension number 2. Do you have a preference for facts or ideas? This is all about how you take in information and the type of information that interests you.
The facts people are actually almost like building blocks, taking in different bits of the picture and building up to a whole. What the ideas people are doing is the exact opposite. They are taking the whole, they get an overview, and only once they've got an overview do they have anything that they can hang the specific parts from.
We've asked our 100 to describe a tea bag. Try this out yourself. What would you say about this tea bag?
There's nothing to say, it's only a tea bag.
And what do you see in this picture? Well, remember what you thought, because we'll be asking you later on. Okay, so if you're sat at home now looking at this picture and you're saying it's got an archway in the middle, it's got a sky and some clouds up the top, what does that mean? What have you just, the person at home just found out about that?
That would be quite a literal, exactly what you see, describing the picture, which is the facts kind of response.
The alternative being?
Ideas, which means that they tend to take an overview, give rather quirky responses, and not stick to the actual facts and content.
Well, let's go over and see what the reactions to this one then.
It had a blue sky and a white cloud in the top left-hand corner. Had a square archway with like a triangular type top. Had a moon in the top left-hand corner. Behind it you could see kind of a cathedral type of thing. On the right-hand side there was an archway. It seemed looked like a...
So straight away that pretty much fitted into what you were saying, wasn't it?
Yeah. The behaviour he just demonstrated was facts behaviour. Whether or not that's his natural style of way of being is a slightly different question, because you can of course fake things.
Hang on a sec, you can fake things, which means you can cheat the system.
If someone wants to, for the purposes of today, come along and say, I'm going to be on TV, I want to present myself in a certain light for the purposes of television, they probably could maintain that for maybe 2 hours. In the same way that if you go out on a first date with someone, you probably present yourself in a pretty positive light.
No,
if you want a second.
Do that kind of thing, do they?
I've heard of it done, you know, Nick. I've heard of it done.
So, is this man trying to be something that he's not because he's on telly? Well, we know, because we filmed him in real life. But before we reveal what he's really like, our psychologists have one final test to try out on him. What exactly can you learn about a person's personality from a tea bag hanging in the air?
It's essentially a repeat of the test that we were looking at earlier, and it's just showing that the difference between the way people take in information about the world, the facts versus ideas, is such a fundamental difference that actually in a way it really doesn't matter what you ask them about. You can show them a very complex picture or something as ordinary and everyday as a tea bag, and you'll see the same fundamental difference coming through.
And it's got tea leaves dotted around the outside of it, and it's got some creases in it, and it's got a kink just at the bottom there.
Andy is clearly demonstrating the facts preference, which means he likes detail. But can our psychologist tell me how that will show itself in his real life?
If we look at, say, a career, like let's take accountants, what we do find is we tend to get more facts people who are accountants than ideas people. That's not to do with necessarily facts people are better at numbers, but they are more interested in them, and so because they're more interested in them and their mind works in a step-by-step building way, they are more likely to then develop skill in that area because they will become interested and they will do more of that.
So does that career description fit Andy? Well, he's not an accountant, he's a computer programmer, but his need to work in a detailed sequential way is spot on.
I'm very picky, I'm very perfectionist.
His detailed outlook means he's ideally suited to his job.
If I could have 30 people at Andy Taylor, my God, we'd be successful.
But surely there's only one way to talk about a tea bag, or is there? How do the ideas people describe it?
It's a cheeky little number, isn't it? Is it decaffeinated or because it's suspended, so it might be of the light variety?
I feel like I'm in a fish tank, like a fish, And then this is a tea bag. It's like a bait.
Okay, so these are ideas responses, but does that mean that these people don't like detail?
Just that I like a cup of tea. A cup of tea is like nectar on a morning.
This is Amanda Morgan from Leeds, who works in an architect's office. Her preference is ideas, but that doesn't mean she can't do detail when the job demands. It's just not what she prefers.
Detail, detail, detail. Drives me insane.
Okay, so you can do both, but with type, what's important is which one you prefer.
It was like a jumble sale being held in Casablanca.
There's a room on the right, there's an arch in the middle.
Sunny, cloudy, ornate pieces of furniture.
On the left you've got a dome on a column of pillars.
It may well be.
So our psychologists are saying you prefer one or the other, but surely you can change. What bothers me is the person I was 20 years ago is not the person I am today. So does that mean I've changed type along the way?
What the theory says is that you are born one type and that you stay that type throughout life.
Personality type theory says we're all one of 16 types, but where does our personality come from? Psychoanalyst Carl Jung, the founding father of personality type theory, believed that we're all born with a predestined personality. But according to the theory, your personality develops over time, much like a seed takes time to become a plant. Just as plants need the right environment to flourish, he believed that factors like your family, education and culture encourage or discourage your ability to form your type fully. So if you're an extrovert growing up in a family of introverts, telling you to be quiet all the time, you may not blossom until you leave home. So we're halfway round our studio and we've seen what makes up half of your total personality type. Are you a planner or spontaneous? Do you prefer facts or ideas? If you want to know, our interactive quiz should point you in the right direction. We're into our third dimension. Are you head types or hearts? This is all about decision making. If you're a heart, you'll put yourself into the situation and decide subjectively. If you're a head, you'll step back and be objective. To test this, we've staged a £1 million giveaway. Our volunteers have been split into small groups to watch this CD-ROM, in which 5 actors will make a plea for why they deserve £1 million. What we're interested in is how each of our Studio 100 decide who gets the money.
And I'd invest the cash in stocks and shares to generate money for underfunded schools.
And I'd use the money to fund my research into epilepsy. I'd give the money to a sanctuary for mistreated animals. I'd use the money to protect rural communities.
And I'd spend the money on local sports facilities for underprivileged kids.
So, based on what you've just seen, how would you decide who gets the money? Would you reason it out or go with your gut reaction? Remember, we're interested in how you'd make the decision, not the decision itself. What are we expecting to find out?
Okay, we're looking for clues. On the head side, people are going to be detached, analytic, cool. And on the heart side, they'll have a warmer style, which is driven more by values, what they like and dislike, rather than taking an analytic, logical approach.
Okay, would you like to go and have a listen in and see what you can glean from it? Okay, so listen carefully. Hearts are led by their values and feelings. Heads will think through the logical reasons behind their choice.
I thought prioritise people above animals, definitely.
Yeah.
We're
big on the animals.
Yeah, that's
Tricky, isn't it? That's all our psychologists have to go on. Did you pick up anything whilst you were there?
Yeah, there's a beautiful example of a heart response. One of the people said, I just don't care about animals. People are much more important. And that's a very direct expression of a value.
Now I'm confused because saying I don't care about animals seems a heartless thing to say, but that's not the same thing then. We're not saying heart people have more heart.
No, it's not about how nice a person you are.
No, it's about how you make the decision. In this group, the heads have decided quickly and logically. The majority rules.
I think that's the vote. Kathy.
So it's 4-3. 4-3.
Kathy won. No, I still don't admit defeat on this. I think that rural communities don't give you countryside.
Whereas this man is basing his decision on the people it affects, more of a heart response.
But actually what kids want is woods and, you know, that sort of thing.
So it's how they make the decision, not who they decide to give the money to. Which is interesting, because this man hasn't decided to give the money to the underprivileged kids, and yet he's a school teacher.
Good afternoon, Eric.
Afternoon, Matthew Dunn.
And this woman is arguing that the city banker who wants to invest it in stocks and shares shouldn't get the cash. And yet she spends her life dealing with money.
So it's the same as on the AIP when you sent it. Yeah, the figures haven't changed from that, have they?
Right, so let's look at their real lives to see which one you think you have the most in common with. Remember Stephen, he's a hearts man, so when making a decision, he really focuses on how that will affect the people involved.
I hate the idea that I've upset someone, and I'll mull over if I've said something to someone in a conversation and it's gone down the wrong way. It really will bother me.
Claire, driven by her head, believes in constructive criticism. Pointing out where someone's gone wrong helps them improve.
If someone has made a mistake, then I'd approach them with it straight away.
If Claire is happy with something, she'll let you know. If Claire isn't happy with something, she will let you know.
So, what are you, head or heart? Well, to help you find out, we've created our own interactive quiz. Soon we'll be asking you 20 questions in 4 blocks of 5. You can use a paper and pen to score, or if you can't lay your hands on either, don't worry, we'll do all the hard work for you. The test is also online at bbc.co.uk/science, or if you're watching on Freeview or digital satellite and you haven't pressed the red button on your remote, do so now and follow the instructions on how to play. But remember, don't change channel, because if you do, you'll lose all your answers. Now, our final zone might seem obvious, extrovert or introvert, but it's not quite what you think. In this zone, we have 2 tests. This is our rapid response box designed to examine the way we communicate. And this, which is not what it seems. Amanda looks like she's just chilling out, but what she and the other volunteers don't know is that this is a hidden test. According to the theory, extroverts relax by socialising with others. Introverts relax by spending time on their own. Seems simple enough, but can our psychologists really get enough information from this to later predict Amanda's behaviour in our weekend of secret tests? In our rapid response test, we're asking all 100 5 random questions, but we're not interested in what they say, but how they say it. Whilst we're talking about it, why don't you go in and have a look, and you can come back and decide which one he is. So, what is she looking for?
Extroverts tend to talk more freely, more quickly, and more repetitively. They also tend not to pause in the way that introverts do. If you ask an introvert an unexpected question, they're more likely to have a hesitancy and to actually go inside themselves and think about it.
Hello.
Tell me about your home.
My home, it's a small flat. I've got 2 bedrooms.
So did you spot the clues for introversion? Well, let's look at it again.
It's a small flat. I've got.
She clearly likes to think first and talk later. Now compare her to David, who talks first and thinks later.
Okay, I live in a 4-storey townhouse with, at the bottom I have my own basement area with like a little ensuite, some steps up, 2 bathroom on your left, kitchen on your right.
Next, we've asked them to tell us what kind of holidays they like and watch the difference in their body language.
Express yourself. Express yourself.
But remember, this is all about preferences. This is Laverne Noel, who we know prefers introversion, but that's not to say she can't be extroverted. In her real life, she's part of an Am-Dram group, but interestingly, she does struggle with some aspects of it.
I feel so silly. I hate jumping up and down.
The group's director has asked her to watch a video of last week's rehearsal, which clearly makes her feel uncomfortable.
Those guys look at all the girls. You know that.
There's a bit on the close-up when
I can't even look at that close-up. After seeing that short scene, I'm really worried about why I've got myself involved in this programme. I'm worried about people looking at me, being the main focus, even for a split second. I don't know, I obviously haven't thought this through, but I'm thinking that I'm going to be on television, on a national television, and it's going to be more than 1 second of my face. It is worrying me so much now.
Laverne wasn't alone. We had real trouble finding introverts to take part in this programme. Let's turn this into at home with children and think, or at home in a situation that people can grab onto. Very often children who talk a lot are told only speak when they're spoken to.
Children that are told that are basically being given heavy environmental cues, as we would call it, to behave like an introvert, to be seen and not heard, to think before speaking.
And you get quiet children who are urged to get out there and do things and not be stuck in reading a book.
Go out and play.
That's a shame.
Go and make friends with so-and-so, and they're actually told the opposite.
So how does our personality type develop? Well, the theory says although we're born with a personality type, we actually develop it one dimension at a time. For example, if the first thing a child is drawn to is facts, they'll probably play with a toy train like it's a toy train, whereas ideas children may see that train as a spaceship flying through the air. But having only developed one dimension of our personality, we're not entirely balanced. The theory asserts that by adolescence we've developed the core of our personality type. Suddenly we know who we are and want to express that, which could explain why teenagers will be teenagers. In working life and our adult relationships, we learn to adapt our behaviour and curtail our preferences. A spontaneous teacher, for instance, will have to plan in order to hold their job down. By the time we get to midlife, we've begun to explore the less preferred sides of our personality. For some, this is about trying new things and pushing the boundaries. For others, it's a time of questioning. Later in life, if we've managed to enjoy the benefits of our personality type and worked out how to adapt it when necessary, then we'll have achieved ultimate balance. Well, that's the theory anyway. Our psychologists have now looked at all 100 people. They've worked out how they think each one prefers to behave in all 4 zones from simple clues they've managed to pick up along the way. The combination of these 4 preferences makes up the 16 personality types. The psychologists are now going to pin their colours to the mast and put each one of the 100 into one of those types based on their observations. How accurate are their first impressions? To find out, we're going to compare their findings with one of the world's most widely used personality tests, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. This extensive questionnaire helps you find out which of the 16 types you are. Now, obviously, you can't do this test right now. Instead, we've designed our own simplified quiz to indicate which type you might be. So, remotes at the ready and pen on paper, because here's the first part of your personality quiz. We're about to ask you the first 5 questions in our test. Remember, to find out exactly who you are, you have to be totally honest. When you go on holiday, what do you prefer to do? Plan every detail in advance? Plan a rough itinerary in advance, leaving some free time? Look at a few options in advance, but only really decide when you're there? You rarely plan, just book at the last minute and go with the flow. Which statement best describes how you do your regular grocery shopping? You make a detailed list of everything you need to buy. You make a rough list to jog your memory. You don't make a list as you think it's a waste of time. You don't do a regular shop, you just go when you need to. You've been to a furniture store and have come back with some flat-pack furniture like a wardrobe or a desk that you have to assemble. What are you most inclined to do? Before you start, you check all the components are there and that you have the tools you will need. You read through the instructions carefully first and then follow them step by step. You scan the instructions, although you don't always follow them exactly. You leap in, only referring to the instructions if you get stuck. Which description fits you best? You're a perfectionist and can't leave anything unfinished. You need time, over-prepare, and hate pressure. You're scatty, forgetful, and disorganised. You put things off till the last minute and are often late. What happens when your local supermarket moves the food to different aisles? You would notice and it would really bother you. You would notice, but you simply change the order in which you shop. You would notice, but it wouldn't bother you as you have no set routine. You probably wouldn't notice. For those using pen and paper at home, here's how we're scoring that set of questions. Remember, they only dealt with one dimension of your personality, so we're still a long way from the full picture. If you answered mainly 1s and 2s, we think you're a planner. If you answered more 3s and 4s, then you're probably spontaneous. Remember, to get the complete picture, you have to do the 3 remaining sets of questions. Or, for more analysis, go to the website. The address is on the screen now. While the 100 finished taking their written personality questionnaire, I've brought our psychologists to this viewing room as it's time to up the ante. Earlier, we took 12 of our 100 away for a series of real-life tests. We made them drive together.
No, reverse. Careful, there's a bank there. Let's go.
Shop together.
Let's go.
And cook together.
Oh, you must be joking. I didn't touch that with you.
We knew which type the written personality questionnaire had given our 12, but they had no idea. These 12 people have been chosen from 4 of the 16 personality types. We picked 2 of the most common types in the country, 3 supervisors and 3 nurturers. Then we picked their polar opposites, 3 idealists and 3 big thinkers. You see, all families are made up of different types, so when we throw these opposites together, well, it should be fun to watch. Remember, the psychologists know nothing apart from the type label. They haven't seen a frame of what we filmed, and to add interest, we've brought the 12 into an adjoining viewing room. Can the psychologists predict how they behave? We're about to split you into 4 groups of 3. You will then be asked to go back to your house where you'll have 15 minutes to work out how to prepare 2 dishes on an Italian theme. So, the 4 different personality groups headed off to plan their meal. All of you watching will have something in common with one of these types. Now, remember, you've only been quizzed on one part of your personality so far. There's still more to come. But for now, you just have to keep your planner or spontaneous score in mind.
Well, we don't need a cookbook. I think we just do it.
Do you want to make an alternative to rump steak in case we sort of get stuck on a budget?
Tell you what, why don't we just go there and see what sort of Italian stuff they got?
Yeah.
Then we brought all 4 groups to this supermarket, gave them £40 and 15 minutes to shop. Do you recognise your own style of shopping in any of them?
Onions, guys. So looking what's what? Someone do vegetables. Someone do get the spaghetti.
We're not very organised, are we?
Andy, can you look down there and see if there's any bay leaves? Andy, have they got stock cubes here? Andy, could you get some goat's cheese?
How long have we got left? Who's on the time limit vibe?
I haven't got a watch.
Oh.
We've got 6 minutes.
Have we? Let's
go. They thought they were here to buy their lunch, but this was the real test. We'd blocked the one area we knew they all needed, the pasta and olive oil aisle. Can our psychologists predict who would ignore the warning and cross the barrier? Big thinkers.
When they see the barrier, they're probably out of the 4 types the most likely to just step over it.
Because?
Because they don't really care as much about the rules. They'll wing it, they'll cheat, they'll negotiate.
Limbo.
Have you been here before?
The big thinkers performed as predicted, but what about the next group? Idealists, will they observe the blockage in the aisle?
They'll probably be less thrown by the blockage in the aisle and the lack of some ingredients, and more able to be spontaneous around that.
That's interesting.
Just play. Right.
So far, so good for the psychologists. And with nurturers, will they cross a barrier?
They are the least likely of the 4 personality types that we're looking at to break a rule.
Really? So they'll respect that and just go for an alternative?
I'd be astonished.
Right, next aisle.
Yeah?
Choose down it.
All right.
Okay. You'll find out.
Come and have a look.
You'll find out. We've got problems.
Come and have a look.
Oh, they're taking me. Oh, that is hilarious, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, come on,
That's all right. That's cool. That's all right.
The psychologists were amazingly accurate with the nurturers, but what about the final planner group, the supervisors? Will they break the rules when it says do not enter this aisle?
They'll be reluctant to break the rules. They tend to like setting rules and tend to respect other people's rules.
Would they really be put off by our barrier? Remember Andy, the computer programmer from earlier? Here's what his boss makes of him.
So I can't imagine Andy ever sort of doing things that are naughty or illegal or getting arrested by police or that sort of thing.
We need olive oil.
So Andy's clearly not a rule breaker.
Oh, that's a bit nasty.
So the psychologist's prediction was wrong. Andy had no problem crossing the barrier.
There's some flavoured ones there.
Isn't that breaking the rules? Which
Oh,
you
it's
said
a
that they
clearly
were...
broke a rule. It's explainable in terms of their extreme task focus.
Exactly.
To get the job done properly is the main thing.
Yes, did Andy really think it was more important to complete the task, or are the psychologists making excuses for his unpredictable behaviour? The way they actually worked out why you'd crossed it, were they accurate?
The logical steps that go through your mind like that are, it's only there for safety, you need the stuff on the shelf, we've got a task to do, go do it. It's not a do not enter, it's beware that there's danger on the floor.
Overall, the psychologists' initial predictions were right for 3 of the 4 groups, and even though they were wrong about the supervisors, they were able to tell us why Andy crossed the barrier, so not a bad start. But what about the nurturers not crossing the barrier? How do they feel about being so predictable? Remember, they'd never met each other before and they didn't know what type they were, until now.
They are describing you as a person you can identify with everything they're saying, and yet they don't know you. We've never met them before. They've never met us before, really. But so it's just based on theory, isn't it? And it's fascinating.
Nurturers are one of the most loyal and dependable of all the types.
I don't want to let people down. I want to be organised. I want to tell people if I'm going to see them, what time I'm turning up, and turn up at that time.
Okay, sweet dreams. Cuddles.
Often compassionate, they tend to put the needs of others before their own.
That really is my biggest worry whenever we have a party. It's just, have I got enough food, you know? Is everybody going to be fed? And it's like, I know it's daft.
Here's something very interesting. We've obviously paid for all the shopping and got them all together to do that. But each of the teams stood and waited to take their shopping away, apart from Dave, Adrian and Aparna, who've left their shopping behind and just gone and happily boarded the bus. Can I interest you in your shopping?
Oi, you left the shopping in there.
I thought there was someone to do that for us.
This one's over.
Did you?
I thought we had a personal shopper as well.
I mean, come on.
Well, you did in the end. It was me that did it for you.
Now.
Thanks, Nick. These 3 were clearly the least organised of the groups here, but big thinkers are supposed to strive to be the best in their field. They've never met before, so do they? David is a managing director of a successful firm in the city.
I was the best salesman I'd ever met.
Aparna is a GP.
I don't get distracted in terms of how to deal with something quickly.
And Adrian has been a high flyer since he was born.
He was an entrepreneur as a child. If Adrian could make money, Adrian would make money.
No, my pleasure.
You can join us later.
No, that's great. Thanks very much.
You won't want to, though, without shopping, will you, really?
Yes.
Thanks, Nat. I can't believe we just left it. Well, you laughing.
Once the groups are back at the farm, we gave them 1 hour to prepare their Italian meal. So, what can the psychologists tell us? Supervisors? Big, messy, all over the place kind of cooks?
No. Tidy, organised. I'd expect them to do role allocation. As
like a chef and commis chef and...
Chef, commis chef, someone cleaning up afterwards, or one person do one dish, one do the other. Some kind of division of labour there.
The starter is easy, so we might as well leave that for the moment and get on with the main bit. Is that all the starter stuff in there?
Yeah. You want to give us some tasks to do? It's going to be the easiest way.
Well, first thing, we need to make up some chicken stock. Grandma your cube directly into your food, blah blah blah.
So we want a litre of it.
We want a
litre.
2
pints, isn't it?
It's 1 3/4 pints.
Yeah.
So, Penny's prediction of role allocation was spot on. But would these 3 people mirror each other in the real world?
You expect to see a lot of that supervisor type in any kind of large organisation that has management.
Claire Stratford works as a building society manager. Andy Taylor works in IT, and Dave Wilson is a manager in Leeds City Council. They've never met before, but how do they approach a task?
If I start a job, I do like to finish it. I like to process it all the way through.
If I'm working on something, I'll generally stay here until I've sort of finished doing whatever it was I was doing in the first place.
If I'm starting a project, I will start it and I will continue with that project until it reaches fruition.
They could be cut from the same cloth. The supervisor personality type has the planner dimension, and if you do too, then you'll probably prefer environments that allow you to work in an orderly fashion. As well as often being found in management, the supervisor type is the least likely to think about quitting their job, a thought that's never occurred to Dave. He's worked for Leeds City Council for 31 years. So, guess which group brought their meal to the table first? The nurturer personality group have a lot in common with the supervisors. They both share the planner and facts preferences, and it was interesting that our nurturer's approach mirrored the supervisors.
Pasta only takes 5 minutes to cook, 7 minutes to cook.
And the pizza's 15-20, isn't it? So 15-20 minutes?
Right. It's only going to take more than about half an hour.
What, to do the whole thing?
They planned ahead and clearly had one eye on the time.
Yeah, but didn't we say we're going to get there at 5:30?
We're going to get there at 5:30.
So that's 10 minutes.
But we're just boiling the water.
And although the groups aren't carbon copies, this task was about planning, so it was no surprise that they left their cottage with plenty of time to spare. So how would our final 2 personality groups approach this task? Both the big thinkers and the idealists share the same preferences, spontaneous and ideas. So what does that tell our psychologists? Okay, the big thinkers, how are we expecting them to cook?
In some contrast, it'll be lots of improvising, possible changes of plan halfway through. If something goes wrong, what the hell, we'll just do something else.
Clean and tidy kitchen? Well drilled?
Far from it.
Messy.
Quite the opposite. A creative muddle.
Oh, you must be joking. I didn't touch that with you.
It just fell off. I didn't touch it.
This one's not gone. Yes, saved.
Oh,
Right,
it just rolled off.
If it's not for us, we can just scoop it up.
They'll never know.
They'll never know. A bit of glass, they'll be all right. Yeah. I've got an idea. Hang on.
I thought a spoon might be. No?
Doing it. No, look. This is what you call knowledge. Using,
No, but you're dishing out water
using
as
a bit of
well.
local knowledge.
You want to take some of the... Oh, now that wasn't sensible,
That didn't work,
was
did
it?
it?
No. Throw it all together and mince it.
Chips and choc ice. Get it? Oh, doing, you nutter. Think. I'm moving away from the cooking area.
Well, the psychologists couldn't have been more accurate. It was a creative muddle. What a nightmare. People being burnt, people being they'd completely mistimed it. There was stuff all over the floors, there was stuff falling out of the pans.
It was classic. You just watch this chaos sort of unfolding as you watch it. What's interesting is if you look at David, the way that he's very unaware of his own body a lot of the time. So first of all, he sort of picks up the pasta, it falls over, then he bends over, then he hits his head on the way up. And you do really see that with ideas people. They're much less aware of kind of what's going on around them.
So personality type tells us that people like David are more prone to being haphazard, which begs the question, how are you still alive at this age?
That was excellent, wasn't it? That was fantastic to watch, just amazing. But it all comes together in the end, so what's the problem? Why write the list? Why chop a bit? If it all comes together and looks good, does the job, what is the problem?
And although we're sure she doesn't make a habit of it, it was Aperna the GP who scolded David. Despite the chaos, the big thinkers did leave their cottage with a meal. Well, most of it.
Oh, you're losing on the rocket.
Our final group were the idealists. Like the big thinkers, they have the spontaneous and ideas preferences. So what could the psychologists predict about them?
They are the most absent-minded of the types we have present. So they are the people who might leave something cooking a bit long or get a bit distracted.
Oh, yeah. If there's a smoke alarm, they may well sort of set off the smoke alarm.
Oh, if only we had scratch and sniff television. That's fantastic. Look at this. You pleased?
Yeah. It's going well, isn't it?
I'm really hungry now as well.
How do you think the other teams might have done?
Oh, I ain't got a clue. I don't know. I don't know, because surely cooking's got nothing to do with personality types.
Well, let's test her theory. In the real world, idealists often display creative tendencies. They have strong values, and some might say
Don't worry, darling.
they're a little scatty.
I'm forever looking for things, forever looking for my phone or my earrings, or I'm forgetting stuff.
Okay, they're forgetful, but we have a real prediction here. The smoke alarm going off?
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Ah!
I'm sorry.
Stephen, you didn't get distracted.
Oh my
So it's fair to say you have this fully under control then,
Absolutely, yes.
Excellent. Well, I think that prediction speaks for itself. Now, I'm seriously worried that you've got a broom and a black cat at home because you predicted that the idealists were likely to set off the smoke alarm based on personality type. What is going on?
It's actually very easy.
You're quite chuffed, aren't you?
I'm very pleased.
Small degree of smug creeping in at this because it...
I just look at my crystal ball next time.
Yeah. What do the idealists make of being so predictable?
At home, all the smoke alarms got the batteries out because it's just so annoying every meal. Every meal.
And again, how are you finding this in as the fact that you are being predicted so well?
It's really intriguing.
I don't like it much.
Yeah, you want to feel you're individual and you can't be placed or boxed, put in a box, and we really are being put in a box.
Yeah.
Even down to smoke alarms.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
After lunch, we settle everyone into 4 cottages dotted around the farm for a quick break before their second challenge. Which is the perfect opportunity to give you the second part of your quiz. So, remotes at the ready and pen against paper. Of the following options, which one describes you best? Realistic, efficient, imaginative, or visionary? How do you usually give directions to your house? Do you provide a step-by-step list of instructions for the entire journey? Draw a really detailed map that shows things like street names and roundabouts? Just give general directions? Sketch a rough map, as too many details can be confusing? Which set of words best describes you? Practical, thorough and stable. Realistic, enthusiastic and spontaneous. Inventive, imaginative and original. Or creative, dynamic and adventurous. Which of these best describes how you do your supermarket shopping? You usually go up and down the aisles in exactly the same order. You read and compare labels and prices. You're attracted to new things or special offers that catch your eye. Or you vary the way you go round the supermarket depending on what you feel like buying. Remember our picture from the studio. Jot down what you see. You have a few moments. Is it a list of what's in the picture? A story about what's happening in the picture? Have you tried to find the hidden meaning in the picture? Or lots of ideas inspired by the picture? So here's how we're scoring that set of questions. If you answered more 1s and 2s, we think you're a facts person. If you scored more 3s and 4s, we reckon you're an ideas person. There are 2 more sets of questions coming up later. And remember, for a fuller picture, you can go to the website, bbc.co.uk/science. Our second challenge was all about driving and navigating. For this, we'd mixed the personality types up a bit. 2 were like types, with the supervisors all together and the idealists all together, but of course they didn't know that at the time. Then we mixed up the big thinkers and the nurturers. Would those of like minds work better together than ones made up of opposing personality types? Each group had to navigate around a course of the country lanes against the clock. The only information they had was a list of directions made by one of their team who was driven around the course earlier. There's your information. I gave each of the teams the directions made by their map maker, which was all they had to go on. And all you'll need to remember is your facts or ideas score. What can our psychologists predict?
It's likely to be that the groups who are the same will get on a lot better in terms of the task and find it a lot easier. So the supervisors, it's all about the task, it's about sorting it out, come on, get a move on, let's just do it. So they're likely to see a lot of similarity between them. Where there are mixed groups, there's likely to be real tension.
So let's see how our mixed type groups got on. We had big thinker Dave navigating with nurturer Christine driving.
Are we going past cars? Fine. Are we going past cars?
No, reverse.
Because Christine has the facts preference, detail is everything.
That's it, and just careful, there's a bank there.
As her real life shows us.
One of the hobbies I do is cross-stitch, and if I know I've made a mistake, one of these windows here is a different colour to what it should be. I will sit and unpick about 2 hours worth of work just to correct that mistake, because it will do my head in if I don't.
But unfortunately for Christine, David has the ideas preference, so detail is a dirty word. Car number 2 and another big thinker, Adrian, who was driving, and nurturer Laverne navigating.
So we still haven't done our right turn yet, have we? Okay.
Remember, our psychologists have predicted tension in both these mixed type groups.
So do you think we need to be back?
I think that...
Give directions, please. Right. Out on Twelms Road. I mean...
We never saw that road, did we?
No.
I just realised I didn't look on the other side of the first bit of paper.
So what, you've been reading the... No, wait a second.
I could see that it was agitating you. I felt a bit... like you were going to stab me at one point there, but slow down.
Adrian and Laverne made it back to base, but not as we expected.
Take my hand, baby.
They're just coming from completely the wrong direction. And they've gone away again. I wonder whether they're going to complete the bit that they didn't do by coming in from the wrong direction. David and Christine were horribly lost, although their map maker hadn't helped, as we'll find out later.
It's put like directions, they've put question marks next to it. Like, as if we're going to know if that's the right way. If you don't know, nobody knows.
So our psychologists predicted tension in the mixed type cars, and they were right. But why?
The ideas people are much more likely to get bored, with a slight proviso that they may also be more competitive. So they may, despite their tendency to get bored, they may nevertheless concentrate.
And when we look back at the tapes, that's exactly what had happened in both mixed type cars. Big thinker Aperna had been David and Christine's map maker.
It's so boring.
Left, yep.
And look at Adrian.
Straight on, straight on.
Come on.
Then
that competitiveness through Laverne.
Because I literally heard him say, you know, I'm going to win, I want to win, we're going to win. It made me panic more, I think.
OK, so the weak link seemed to be the ideas preference. Let's test that. In our final 2 cars, we have the idealists, all ideas people, and the supervisors, all facts people. Would they perform to type?
Facts people are likely to be very observant about what's going on around them. And they're likely to make a detailed note about every single thing they see, including road signs, schools, pubs, even curves in the road.
So, let's test that. The supervisors, all facts people, had hit the road.
There's a new Mini parked in-house on the right-hand side.
Oh, nice direction. Yeah, love it.
This team, as predicted, went for a very detailed approach.
We'd decided as a group before we started off that what we needed to do, as well as sort of, you know, turn right here, turn left here, street names wherever you could, to put as many landmarks on as possible so that you sort of, you know, you knew that you were going the right way or not.
The supervisor team made it round in a good time and only made one mistake. How did it go?
Brilliant.
Excellent, yeah. Good direction.
Good route planner.
Yeah.
Really
Went
good.
very well. We had lots of details, so that helped.
Just one slight hitch, but no problems.
No.
Nothing at all? Nothing you could have had better?
No, not really. There was one thing that we didn't quite understand, but apart from that, perfect.
So when they meet up with their route planner, do you think they'll bring up the one thing that was wrong?
Oh,
or
yes.
they'll
Yes, they will.
They'll leave it
Yeah.
alone. You sure?
They will evaluate in a very logical way, so they'll say what worked, these points were all good, but the one thing we didn't follow or wasn't right was this.
They were brilliant. You gave us so much detail.
The only thing we missed.
Yeah.
I never saw it, but he said it.
So the supervisors had found this task straightforward, but our psychologists didn't hold out much hope for the final group, who all had the ideas preference. And who's going to do the worst?
It may well be the idealists, because they may not see it as a competitive challenge.
I think they'll lose interest.
Amanda had planned the directions for this team. What can our psychologists tell us about them?
It'll read much more like a story, as if she's writing to another person, rather than just a bulleted list.
Well, interesting you should say that, because if I take a quick look at the map, I'm writing as travelling, bear with me.
Very concerned for her teammates.
Yeah.
Question is, were those story-like directions any good?
Keep going to sign for Wheat Acre. Wheat Acre,
I think we did really well, and I was waiting for it to get hard or waiting to get lost, because I'm perennially getting lost, and I was really, really proud that we hadn't got lost.
This team put in a performance on a par with the supervisors.
Better at it than we predicted, in that they actually seem to have got there, and they've got there quickly and fairly efficiently, despite the fact that they were also not confident that they would do well.
And yet they do often produce as a group. I think the supervisors could do that sort of stuff all day. The idealists would get much more tired.
OK, the psychologists were wrong about the idealists, but in real life they would have been spot on, despite the fact the psychologists had never even met them.
Maxwell, good afternoon. I can't even drive the same way to school every day. There's a road down there that takes you straight to school, but it's just one road and it's so boring. So every day I try and find another route.
And Stephen's thoughts on driving are mirrored by typemate Teresa.
Sometimes I sort of purposefully get lost, just to find if it's a regular journey that I do a lot, I just kind of think, oh, there must be a shortcut, there must be a more interesting route.
How did that go?
We think it went really well.
Yeah. The idealists clearly put in an unexpected performance on the day, but we were more concerned about our missing group, who were practically in the next county. I put in a call to get them back. Hello, is that Dave? You have run out of time.
Good skill, all right, mate. Nice one. Cheers, Nick. Right. Oh, mate, we're too late to use our phone call. We're outside the time limit. We're on the sat-nav and they're coming to get us.
Should we just confuse them and carry on driving?
I think they're already confused, basically, because he said you're outside of, like, almost off the global positioning system. House on the right, windows, roof, trees on your left, fields on your right.
No, you're making that up.
No, we are not making it up. I swear to God, it's
Get
like
the map out.
L. Oh,
Because I could have sat in that car quite happily, because I'm used to being lost, and so I'd have just...
We are now!
But you must be very pleased, because as I say, the predictions were fantastic, and these people are acting in type, aren't they?
Absolutely. And the task fitted with the kind of things that supervisors like doing, which is needing to get from A to B and having very clear, specific, logical details about how to get there.
So I think the lovely thing that illustrates is that when you have mixed type groups, you do get this kind of tension because people approach things differently. But when you can get these people to work together and agree with each other, you know they will have looked at whatever the problem is from every angle.
Yeah.
The type-alike groups, whilst you get that initial, yeah, we all get along well, they will also share the same blind spots. So when they go off the rails, they'll all go off together.
So it can actually be a good thing to have a marriage between two people who are different types.
Oh, it can be very stimulating. It's a matter of getting the right balance of support and challenge between the two types and appreciating the difference.
So the key to a happy relationship could be tolerating each other's quirks. That's certainly how big thinker David and girlfriend Monique get by. Unlike David, Monique likes order, so put yourself in her shoes when she found out 48 hours earlier that David had decided to throw a black tie party with all the bells and whistles.
This could be champagne and vodka seafood party, so I have a lovely big ice statue of our logo with all the seafood and champagne in it and all sorts of stuff, so it'll be great.
Luckily for David, Monique knows what he's like and has got her eye on the detail.
Well, I've ordered the food, and I'm going out to get the champagne. I've ordered the glasses. David sorted out the more ostentatious stuff.
Spontaneous ideas people like David get a real kick from leaving things to the last minute. In fact, the adrenaline can provide the energy that helps them get things done.
Lemon, yeah, I like lemon. What do you reckon, mandarin and lemon?
But David's approach could terrify someone who needs to plan.
It's all going off, isn't it? All right, no worries. Hello.
Christine, who we'd seen in the driving challenge with David, is a nurturer, which means she has the planner dimension. She's been organising her housewarming for weeks. She knows exactly what needs to be done and likes to take control.
I'm getting there slowly. I think everything's in the oven now. And then as soon as all that stuff's out of the oven, then I'll tell people to eat.
But that's not to say that people like David can't get things done. The centrepiece to his party has arrived, whether his girlfriend likes it or not.
That is your cup of tea, that is.
See?
Not understated. I'd have a little one in the corner.
But it wasn't only the preparation that differed between David and Christine. Check out the noise levels between David's impromptu bash and Christine's housewarming.
Well, the thing is, it was like this room was kind of set up.
Do you see the similarities with either of these two? Well, our quiz should help. Which set of words best describes you? Analytical, logical, and objective. Decisive, driven, and energetic. Caring, helpful, and supportive. Or complex, thoughtful, and sensitive. What would you do if you had to decide between two homes to move into? List your ideal features and compare which place has most. Compare the good and bad features of both. Go with your gut feeling about which is best. Or think about how each place affects the other people in your life. If your friend starts dating someone you really dislike and asks you what you thought about the relationship, what would you do? Be upfront and honest about what you think. Try to be tactful but still be truthful about what you think. Try not to hurt their feelings, changing the subject if necessary. Or avoid hurting their feelings, telling a white lie if necessary. If you're with a group of friends and an argument breaks out, what do you tend to do? Face the dispute head on? Try to find an answer to the problem. Try to meet everyone's needs. Anything to avoid hurting people's feelings. When you have to make a difficult decision, what is most important to you? Arriving logically at the best choice. Being as fair as possible. Doing the right thing according to your own beliefs and values, or getting the approval and agreement of others. So, if you scored mainly 1s and 2s, you're probably a head person, and you're more likely to be a heart if you got mainly 3 and 4s. So, now there's only one more section to go before we reveal your personality type. I'd split the group into 2 teams of 6 and asked them to meet me at a picnic site. While they made their way there, we landed this helicopter. In our next challenge, we would present them with a dilemma because we wanted to test how heads and hearts would make a decision. If one person from each group had to be left behind, how would each individual decide which one it was to be? They were not allowed to pick themselves or discuss their choice with each other. So, what can our psychologists tell us about the hearts from each group?
The heart people you'll see even on their faces, angst. Oh my God, I don't want to do this, I don't like doing this. It'll be very subjective and find it very difficult to make the decision.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
I just don't know. I don't know how I can choose.
God, it's hard. You're evil. You're so evil.
That dude over there. Just because those lot seem more relaxed and he's not as relaxed.
I'm trying to think of who would be most frightened of it.
So the psychologists are fairly accurate with the hearts. What about heads?
So the head approach would just be to step back from it and go, well, it's a problem-solving task. Let's look at the different ways we can solve this problem. At the end of the day, we just have to pick, a name and, well, we'll find a way of doing that. It might even be drawing straws.
Oh. At random, alphabetically, who comes first? Andy.
Okay, I'm going to pick Laverne because I know she's scared of minibuses. She doesn't like motorways, so I'm imagining she's not very fond of heights and a helicopter.
Andy.
Why?
I think I'd rather give the girls a chance.
That's hard, isn't it? You really care, don't you?
Claire.
Because?
The one thing that I do know that that Claire did was go up in a helicopter.
Aperna.
Right.
Not to go.
Because?
I just had to pick one there, really, and I made a decision.
So the psychologists have been better when it comes to reading the heads. Now they decided Andy and Adrian were left wondering why they'd been left out. But their worries were small fry compared with Laverne, who revealed her fear of flying.
I cannot get on a helicopter. That is just going to picture. I cannot. There's no way I can get on a helicopter.
Well, let's see. Okay, just one last question on this basis. Laverne has now been selected to go on a helicopter ride. She's terrified of helicopters. She's a nurturer. How's she going to deal with it?
If she behaves according to type, she'll put her own needs, her own fear or terror aside and do it for the group.
Would Laverne really put the needs of the group before her own and face her fear head on?
I can make myself. I can psych myself up to do it.
What was interesting was how the group tried to help Laverne. Big thinker David tried to strike a bargain with me.
Well, change our mind or not?
I'm afraid that was the test, and that's the test how it's going to have to stay for the moment. All right?
No way of stopping. myself with Adrian?
Sadly, no. We had to make the test final at that stage. And we'll have to stick with it, I'm afraid.
Or we can all just not, though.
Now he's changing the rules.
And then he doesn't lose whatever, does he?
He's locked.
No, but that's,
he will
I don't
feel
wanna
like.
know. Let's just do it, because I don't want to ruin everyone else's
You're not going to ruin anything, are you?
thingy.
We haven't lost anything, we haven't had it.
We've got
I'll
a
tell you
drink
what,
anyway,
look,
yes.
let's get to the next site
Yeah.
where it's all going to happen,
Cheers.
and we can talk about it there, all right?
Okay. Oh my God, we what's going?
With that, everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Move on, please. What an extraordinary woman that she's practically on the verge of collapse, but he's still going to go through with it.
It's that resolute determination which you'll see.
And what personality type theory can do for her is give her more confidence in her own worth, that she has a distinctive contribution to offer to society,
Again,
which would appeal to her. Appeal to her.
You make the point again that if you're going to go out and find friends, you want to find yourself a Laverne, don't you? Really? Because somebody's who'll back you up.
Walk on hot coals for you.
But she wouldn't have to walk on hot coals or go in the helicopter. It was time to call a halt to her plight, as not all 10 could fit in the machine. You now have to decide, because I don't know whether you noticed, there's only 2 seats. You have to decide in your teams which one person from each team is going to go up in the helicopter. Please group together and make that decision now. You have 2 minutes. What we found were 2 completely different styles of decision making. 2 hearts found an approach which avoided hurting anyone's feelings.
That's good. Take out the emotion.
They're so alike, they choose the same.
That's quite scary.
But it's something that I have kind of wanted to
Oh,
do.
that's you again.
So you win it.
You've got it.
Yeah. Going. Oh, well done, Stu.
And in group 2, Paul had also admitted his fear of flying. Again, big thinker David used his head and came up with a plan.
It's going to be more an achievement for one of you 2 to do than it is for me to do it or her to do it. It'll be a real achievement for you 2.
I want you go for it.
do it. I think you go for it.
I want to do it and I don't.
You'll feel so good about yourself.
Oh, all right.
Yep, good.
Sorted.
Okay.
How pleased are you?
I'm so happy. I can't even put
I was
words to
finding
it.
him up.
I know. She said to me, I think you should be you, Laverne. I was like, what? No, I'm really happy. I'm absolutely happy.
I'm happy for you.
Good, thank you.
I felt terrible about leading Laverne on for so long, but couldn't break the detail because we had to know how they'd work. One of the most striking things about this test was how they'd all approach the task from different angles, and particularly how they'd all pull together to help Laverne and her fear of flying.
Pack up, let's fly away.
One of the things we wanted to say about this is there's no better type or worse type.
No.
And what we've had there within that team was a situation where they were put in a very stressful situation. Laverne has to confront a fear. She does it for the benefit of the group.
Yeah.
The group want to support her by not making her. The big thinker's trying to find some way to get round the system or to confront me to break the rules.
Yeah.
And you have a team of all different types, which makes up a fantastic group of people, doesn't it?
So the diversity is actually the really helpful bit, and actually having the different combinations enables them to actually get over this problem, but in a very, very complex way. Whereas if they'd all been the same as Laverne, and Laverne was having to go through that, they may have all just been very supportive of her, and together solidly kind of gone through the process. They may not have sort of come up to you and challenged you and said, oi, you know, can we get around this?
Coming up, the moment when some of the group started to cotton on to who was the same type as them.
It really sort of opened my eyes that somebody else was like me.
And we actually reckon that we are the 3 stages of the same person.
Now, here's the last part of your quiz. Shortly, we'll show you what the combination of your scores adds up to. When you're out with a group of friends, how much of the talking do you usually do? Hardly any at all. A little less than most. Quite a lot, or almost all. When it comes to expressing yourself, do you Hold back more listening to others before speaking. Think before you speak. Think out loud. Or use your hands and facial expressions a lot. What are you like when you have to meet a group of new people? You stick with the people you've met before. You spend your time thinking about how to keep the conversation going. You aim to mingle with as many new people as possible. Or you just go out and have fun. Which set of words best describes you? Cautious, thoughtful and loyal. Inquisitive, contained and independent. Lively, enthusiastic and energetic. Expressive, talkative and friendly. If you're in the middle of something important and the phone rings, how do you usually react? Do you ignore the phone or let the machine pick up? Take the call but deal with it as quickly as possible. Answer it as you welcome the chance to talk to someone but keep it brief. Or answer the phone enthusiastically and be up for a long conversation. So, if you answered more 1s and 2s, we think you're an introvert. If you've got more 3s and 4s, we reckon an extrovert. That's the end of the interactive test. If you're a digital viewer, your personality profile will be displayed on screen in a little while. If you've used a pen and paper, keep your scores close by. We'll be revealing the final results in a few minutes. You can still take the test online or find out more about the science behind personality testing by going to our website at bbc.co.uk/science. Remember the beanbags in our studio designed to separate the introverts from the extroverts? Well, simply from the way Amanda lay here, our psychologist decided she was an introvert. If that's the case, can they predict how she'll behave on the weekend away?
What happens to introverts is that we get all jangly inside after a certain amount of interaction. And in order to, well, to idealists anyway, in order to feel harmonious again, we just need to sit somewhere and do nothing.
The groups have been given the evening off after a long day of challenges. So, did Amanda and the 2 other idealists all do the same thing? Remember, they'd never met before.
I've all talked out.
A couple of the times I've kind of stepped away from the group or the little groups or whatever after we've done a task.
I'm at that sort of thoughtful stage now.
Just to sort of, you know, chill and wind my, you know, sort of wind down a bit.
It's kind of the constant talk. I just can't keep up with it, really. I just find, like, I just wear myself out.
So the psychologists are right, but that's not to say that the introverts didn't socialise. They just did it in a different way from the extroverts. Compare the differences. Which cottage do you think you'd feel more at home in?
As well, I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, oh, excuse me. I'm on the floor, knees in my back. I'm like this, and I've smacked my head on the floor. Suddenly, I'm handcuffed in the back of the car next to these 2 criminals.
And he was sat right next to me, and I thought, oh no, you know, I'm going to be so tired, and I was tired.
Yeah, you were
And he did talk non-stop the whole way.
Clearly different, but both groups were able to socialise when they felt like it.
And the important thing for all of us is that we get that balance right. That an introvert who never goes out, never explores the external world, doesn't have the balance in the right place. They need to do enough of the internal in order to be able to go out and do the socialising and all those things. But likewise, an extrovert who never takes time out to think about things would also be out of balance. We have to do the both. That's what the healthy thing is.
Having recharged their batteries, our introverts certainly found some balance when they attended David's impromptu party.
Before I did this, I didn't think I'd be able to mix with that many people, because I find it difficult to sort of form associations with people. There are people here who I wouldn't have spoken to at a party. Dave, because I could see he was a laugh, but I was also very, very threatened by him. It's made me much more confident to have a go and meet different people.
But once the party had died down, I wanted to see if any of the group had spotted who they were like.
Claire and Andy.
Oh,
it was,
you guys
it was
won.
Scary that the similarities between us and how we dealt with situations and the detail. It really sort of opened my eyes that somebody else was like me.
I was talking with Andy last night, and like there was this jar with cutlery in it, and it was all muddled up, and he was saying, "Oh, I put the forks together and the spoons together and the knives together." And I was saying, "Yeah, I'd do that."
Yeah, I'm just like that. I
gonna have to
would
separate
put like the knives there and the forks there and the spoons there or something. I couldn't have them all muddled
can't
up.
be doing.
No, I wouldn't like that. Do it. Sort it out now.
And I think, why would I do that? Why can't I just be more laid back and just leave it?
We actually reckon that we are the 3 stages of the same person. You know, sort of Dave was saying that I was like he was, 30 years ago. And I was saying...
I was nothing like you 10 years ago.
Were you not? Seriously?
I would say 10 years ago I was very laid back and didn't really care about anything, and now I'm a bit more into little details and getting things right. And seeing it in you, I can see myself and I think, you're just like me, and because I see it in other people, I think, I don't want to be like that. Because I think we've got the same traits, and they're not all necessarily good ones.
All the predictions the psychologists have made so far have been based on the types given to our 12 by the written paper personality test they filled out earlier. But do they agree with the type they were given? The final part of the personality testing process asks you to decide which type you actually think you are. Our psychologists met the 12 for the first time to talk them through the dimensions so they could make up their own mind. What we found was a real consensus of opinion. The 12 agreed with almost every aspect of the personality types that the paper test had given them.
It was absolutely spot on, really. I was predicted as a supervisor, and going through everything, I agreed with all of it.
It fits in exactly with what I think I'm like in different situations and things like that. Everything fits in.
You know, I'm like an entrepreneur who has, I'm the big thinker, the ideas man, and I'm the one that spurs people, that motivates people, and yeah, so that's just definitely where I fit in. Definitely the big thinker.
The assessment of supervisor sums me up to a T. It describes the way I operate, the way I work. Very logical, very determined.
The assessment was spot on, exactly spot on.
We then put all the other people who'd been part of our studio test through the same process to see just how many of them agreed with the personality type they'd been given by the written test. Nearly 70% agreed with the full type they were given, and 90% agreed with at least 3 dimensions of that type. Generally, overall, we can have a yes or no on a big result. What do you reckon to this? Good, bad, indifferent? Very good.
There were so many things that just seemed to click. It was like, oh yeah, I'm that kind of person.
It's fascinating because now you find out sort of why different people interact the way they do, why some people don't always get along, why you've got colleagues you just can't work with because they work an entirely different way to you. And that's it. So I've now got a new appreciation of that, so I can go back and go, all right, fine, that's why you do things.
So all 100 have found out what they are, but has our play-along quiz worked you out? Match all 4 of your scores to find out your personality result. Remember, it's only an indication, and what you've seen in this programme should have given you a good clue as to how you prefer to behave in the 4 dimensions. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide. To find out what your personality result means and whether you agree with it, you can visit our website for more analysis, bbc.co.uk/science. Earlier, we tested our psychologists at how good they were at spotting someone's type purely from the way they behaved in a series of fun and bizarre tests. We can now compare their findings against the written personality test, which most people in the studio have agreed with. Right, we have the results of the test.
Yeah.
Now, how tough to get all 4 aspects of all 4 dimensions of each characteristic right?
Well, it is tough. It's not so hard when you work with someone for a long period of time and get to know them. But what we were doing in the studio today was really different from that.
Of course, because it's TV and we've only got a couple of hours and you've had to make up your mind very, very quickly on those 2 minutes. So I'm now going to give you the details. The ones that you got all 4 dimensions of their character correct, 24%. So 1 in 4, you got absolutely everything right.
Okay.
The total for getting 3 out of 4,
Yes.
here in the studio, bearing in mind we've bunged 100 people through that quickly, 55%. 55% of the people in here you've got right for 3 out of the 4 dimensions.
That's pretty impressive, given the fact that we've never done this before, we've never met these people before, they're all wearing black boiler suits. That's not bad.
So, despite the fact that the psychologist's predictions had been really accurate, their first impressions of people were less impressive. But frankly, it's nice to know we're not so easy to read, as our weekend away confirmed. Remember, even professional high flyers can cause chaos.
Nice. Oh, do it, you nutter.
And sensible supervisors can break the rules.
That's a bit nasty.
And although someone like David is a nightmare in the supermarket, if you're in a tight spot, he's your man.
It'll be a real achievement for you two.
I found this a fascinating experiment, and everyone seems to have learnt more about what they're really like. So do you think, guys, this is going to, for you, might open up more doors in terms of how you actually look at people and give people a chance to...
I think so, very much so. I think what it will do is make you sort of go away and be thinking, oh, that person might be a bit of an introvert, extrovert, and you'll start thinking about other people and perhaps adapt the way that you interact maybe sometimes with these people, because you can understand them a little better. And I think that is quite important to make, you know, life perhaps a little bit easier and to maybe make yourself understood.
So can you see areas where this actually might work out?
I think certainly with regards to tolerating people's little quirks and things like that. Like, I get annoyed with a friend of mine because he's always late for everything and it really winds me up. But now at least I can say, okay, it's because he's a certain personality type. He's just always going to be like that and I can't change it.
And become aware that you're the reason you're getting wound up about it is because
because I'm a certain type as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Dave?
There's a lot that I now will go away and focus on personally. So just as you say, I could get so much more out of certain situations with a supervisor type personality or with a nurturing type personality. So just to think just to think about it more and to be more aware of others than just living in Dave world.
Recommend it to people?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely worthwhile.
Yeah? Are you all individuals? Yes, we are all individuals. Of course you are. Of course, personality type doesn't deal with all of your characters. Thank you very much for taking part, everyone. It's been great fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, mate.
Cheers.
Oh, and by the way, in case you're wondering, big thinker apparently. Do I quite like the idea of being a go-getter? Oh well.
A new team captain with a very big personality joins They Think It's All Over, next on BBC One.
Join me, Terry Wogan, The Cause and Evelyn Glennie in London's Hyde Park and top musicians in Belfast, Glasgow, Swansea and Manchester for an unforgettable night under the stars. And a big screen link up to the last night, live from the Royal Albert Hall. BBC Proms in the Park on Saturday the 11th of September. For more information call 0870 899 8100.
Some wicked fun now on BBC One, kicking off a new series. The Boys Are Back.